How you doing, folks? You're watching Onward with Onrie Live, and I'm your host, Enrica Jang. Before we kick off today's episode, I just want to say a couple things, because I think it can't go without saying that things are kind of messed up right now. About 30 minutes from where I live, it's a war zone. And I know that a lot of you in whatever cities you live in and whatever towns you're from are experiencing a lot of the same things. This is absolutely a very difficult time for all of us. And it just the things that we're seeing, it weighs very heavily on our hearts, particularly me. I don't know how I can even find the ability to be productive at a time like this. It honestly has taken a lot of strength for me to even have this show today. And I decided to do it because I think it's important for us to not distract people from what's going on, but to provide some means of escape so that we can find a way to cope with what's going on. And I wish that there were better ways for us to do this. I wish that there was a quick solution to bring all this to a head, but honestly, it's not. I think that what we're seeing happening right now is something that has been in the works for a long time. And I wish for a quick resolution, and I wish for a safe one. And for those of you who are listening, and for those of you who will be listening, I hope that you are all staying safe and healthy throughout all of this. And I am very happy to be here right now because I got an excellent guest in the house. Everyone, please welcome Enrica Jang. And I know I messed it up. Enrica Jang.
My confession is I didn't even know how to pronounce your last name until like just 2 seconds ago when you actually said it. I know Onrie.
We even hung out together a couple times. And
I know.
Yeah, we just don't say each other's names. Yeah, we know each other.
It's Enrica Jang.
Enrica, such a pleasure to have you.
Nice to meet you.
Do us all a favor. Tell us who you are and what you're all about. This is your chance in the spot.
Ooh,
Shot
screen.
in the spot.
And my background here.
I'm gone. I'm gone.
Background, by the way. I'm gonna work on this here. Okay. So, my name is Enrica Jang. I'm EIC at Red Stylo Media. Started the company 2008, 2009. Our company does annual anthologies, collections of original stories, comic stories inspired by theme for the year literature. We've covered Poe, we've covered Shakespeare. Last year we covered Dante's Inferno, some really cool stuff. And then I am a comic writer. I've been doing this now, gosh, 10 years. It's crazy. And I have a new book out right now with Alex Cormack and Mark Mulaney called Crossing. And that's us. That's me. That's what we do.
Excellent. So we spoke a little bit before we had the show, and you had told me that you are involved with a very special cause right now. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, well, I don't claim to be connected to.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You were finding a way to.
I think we're all.
I'm sorry. As soon as I'm off this call, you're gonna be like, "You fucking asshole."
Who are you? No, I think what I love about our community, like comics, like every single person who's I'm not a jerk. You see a lot of people really putting forth, like finding ways to give, finding ways to share tips with people, retweeting this stuff. And maybe I've just refined my bubble, but most of the people I know in comics, I've been very happy to see that they're awake, they're paying attention, and they don't agree with what's happening for our country and the way things are going on. So we try to give, Red Stylo tries to give where we can. Years ago, we started a nonprofit kind of wing called We Win Con. We win, they don't win, we win. And that idea is it's a sort of the nonprofit idea. And then our company gives incentives to people who are donating to organizations. So we can't do a lot, obviously, but everybody has to do a little. And one of the ways that Red Stylo is trying to give now is that if you make a $50 donation to Know Your Rights Camp, and that's the organization started by Colin Kaepernick, and they are doing funding for protesters, for the legal fees, this kind of stuff. They're a wonderful organization that was started even before all of this, doing really, really great work. And so give $50 to that organization, you get $20 at Red Stylo. And that's just a little way that we can contribute. And
that's a big sacrifice for those of you who are listening. That's a big sacrifice what you're doing, because that you're running a business, and I know what it's like. $20 is a lot of money. So when someone comes in and shops with you, you're basically giving back to them as a way of saying thank you for being a part of a cause that I believe in. And that's a very powerful thing. And I'm very proud of you that you are standing for something that means so much to you, especially at a time like this when we need to come together. And I think that's one of the things that has been really wonderful for me having this show, is that it's given me a chance to actually, hang out and talk to you, because the last time we hung out was at Awesome Con. Let's rewind. It was Awesome Con 2019. We had dinner, and we had a really lovely dinner one night. Very expensive dinner, but it was a really nice dinner.
Yes, it was.
It was because of those olives. What were they called again?
All right, so these olives that the chef takes a little drill and spins into the olive and liquefies the inside, but leaves it intact. So it's like a grape, but it's an olive.
It was really good. What was the restaurant?
And you very generously purchased many of them for us.
Yes, I did. I had a good day on the floor. But what was the name of the restaurant?
Oh gosh, don't.
It was the liquid olive.
What's
a restaurant? What the hell is that?
As long it's been since I actually sat down anywhere else but my house. I'm sorry to the folks in DC. I will in the notes after let's put a plug in for, because they're really
find
great.
out. We'll
amazing.
Find out. Yes, it was a really good place. So during that dinner, the reason why I'm bringing it up, not because I know I've seen you a couple times after that, but in that evening, I was sitting next to Ted, and I fucking talk to Ted all the time, and it's really boring talking to Ted Sikora when you see him all the time. He's fascinating guy. He's fascinating like the first couple times you talk to him, and then after that, it's like whatever.
We're done.
Yeah, we're done. But the one thing that I never get to talk to you about is really your process, and you're doing a lot of different things. I mean, you're working as an editor-in-chief, so you're handling a lot of the publishing stuff. What is your presence at comic conventions? What do you do? Like, what are your goals when you head out?
Oh man. Well, I think our model over the last few years has changed. I gotta admit, not as successful at shows as you are, sir.
I can't be successful at shows if I can't do them,
That's true. No, it's an expensive road, right? And so started doing shows, started going to shows because you love comics, you love shows. Hopefully we're all doing something that we love, right? And that's why we're doing this. So, and I love panels at shows, so I miss that part of it now that I'm on the convention floor all weekend. I never get to go to panels unless maybe I'm on one. But I think just as a business, things were different even in the beginning. Obviously you're building your audience at a show. Hopefully we make some sales, but it's expensive to get there. And so you find like on the road, you figure out ways to save the money on this hotel, and you clip all those coupons and you do that kind of stuff. And then you let unsuspecting Onrie compans buy you dinner for the table, and just don't object too much when you
absolutely never. So that
kind of stuff, I think. But what I'm getting at is I learned more from the people I go to shows with than the strategies that I thought I was going to bring to a show and win. And so the fancy setup or the or a lot of giveaways, this kind of stuff. You see a lot of people when they first come into comics, throwing this brick of money at this. And then you see other folks, modest table, couple books out, and they are selling all weekend. And it really is about being present and talking to people and making it a point to look at folks as they're going past and say, what do you like? What do you want to read? How can I interest you? And then and showing them the books on the table, that kind of stuff. And it's that simple, And so all the fancy stuff that tried different things over the years, different giveaways, free posts, this kind of thing. Even what is it? Scavenger hunts at the show. I'm going to hide a book here, go find this, all that stuff. Nothing takes the place of I'm present. I'm not on my phone. I'm talking to people and trying to get like attention of everybody who walks through, and you just have a real conversation and you listen, you ask them a question they can answer, and then you listen to that answer, and then you talk about your book. And that is the number one most effective thing. No matter what.
I agree with you. And we were talking a little bit about this because given what's going on right now, it's harder for us to kind of figure out, well, what we're going to do from here. I mean, sure, we get a little bit of attention here and there from retailers and some of our fans who are really, motivated and want to support us. But especially as things kind of go down this path that we're going through, I think it's really one of the things I really admire about you is that you're always being an innovator. You're always thinking about what else can I do? What's the next model? And I see you always trying. You're not afraid to try anything. And that leads me to another question that really interests me. How the hell did such a innovative person get into comics? What is your origin with comics? Like, how did you get in this field? And why the hell? 10 years? That's how long I've been doing it. How the hell do you do this for 10 years like me?
How the hell do you do this for 10 years? Well, I tell the story a lot about, oh, you still see me?
Yes, I still see you. There was a little bit of a lag, but you're here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I tell the story a lot that we, well, I want to be a writer. And I loved writing, and I struggled for years with my college novel, and wanted to be a novelist, and just wanted to create the things that I loved and loved to read, but didn't consider comics, despite the fact that I was reading them. I love graphic novels, love comics, but I wanted to be a novelist, but I struggled for years and never finished anything. Just never finished anything. Did the MFA, all this other stuff, like focused on writing was a big part of my life, but I constantly had writer's block, this kind of stuff. But then I took a comics writing class just to learn a different format. And the format of it, the form, the structure of a comic script, being able to outline everything, put it all together, and then put a comic together. Suddenly I was finishing projects all the time. Like finally finishing something, like whether it was like a mini arc or whether it was like a whole like 12-issue like series in my head, I was actually finishing work. And so I wish I could say I was so good at it that I just kept going, but really it was just like the desire to complete a project. That was the thing that got me going. And then I was very fortunate to score an internship at Marvel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I worked with Axel Alonso when he was still executive editor, and Daniel Ketchum when he was still just an assistant editor, Sebastian Gerner just an assistant editor, and I was probably obnoxious. I know I was obnoxious, but just the intern, and you're on Comics Mountain, and you're learning how the best comics in the business, certainly the top, are being created. And you're learning that process and learning the business of it while you're there. And so I got that glimpse into how the businesses at the top were run. And so I had ideas about how I should kind of start. But the thing about this business, and you hear this every single time you talk to somebody in comics, if you want to get into comics, you have to make them. If you want to get into comics, you got to make them. And so after I finished my internship, because I still wanted to go back to Marvel at one point and try to impress those guys. And I started creating my own comics and started with my first series, Azteca. And then there was a part of me, I still wanted to be an editor as well. And I knew that nobody was going to take me seriously if I was only editing my work, because you can't edit yourself, right? So if you're only editing yourself, nobody's like, you're just,
you don't have that, like, that person, that driving force behind you to kind of like say, to check you. You're checking yourself now. The buck stops with you.
Yeah, and so from the creative side, it's detrimental if you're trying to just edit yourself. For a professional side, even other editors are going to look at you sideways if you try to treat their profession like a stepping stone, because ultimately I wanted to be a creator, but I didn't want anybody to think that, hey, I am only interested in my work. So started to put together anthologies and put out a theme, invited people to come in and submit their stories, and I was going to be editing their work. And that way, put out a book that I had no writing in at all, save the introduction. And that was the first kind of like business project, like project for my business that I did, not counting my own comics. And then the book was really successful. Partly had to do with the theme, Edgar Allan Poe inspired works, but now we have done an anthology every year except one of the last 10 years. And we've published over 350 different artists and writers over the span of time as a company. I've got amazing. 3 other editors that I work with. And before COVID and all this other stuff, we really were like sort of building the team, building even more, kind of trying to see like what's the next 10 years going to look like if we've done this, we have all this content. It's still new to some people and kind of putting that forward. And then COVID's kind of put this sort of, everything's on pause a little bit while we're trying to decide what the future is going to look like. And it's like starting over again, which is kind of exciting in some ways, but also really fucking scary. Sorry, am I allowed to?
Yeah, you can drop that. Here, I'll drop. Can I just drop a few? Because I've been hearing you talk, and I've been wanting to just say it a whole bunch of times. Fuckity fuck. Say it as many fucking times as you fucking want. You're on Onward with Onrie Live. Say fuck as many times as you need to. God fucking damn it.
We just put out a kid's book, and we were trying to.
Oh, you put out a fucking kid's book! Holy fucking shit!
We're trying to be nice. We're trying to be nice. And so a couple of
Well, anyway. I find that interesting though. So you actually got a glimpse. You saw how things would run at Marvel.
Yeah.
And that sets a precedence in your head about how things should be done. Yeah. And then you think about how comics are distributed. So you got how, everything works, but yet you still branched off and did your own thing. And you turned it into a success. And then all I'm hearing from you is that, you learned from the best, and then you went off to do your own thing. And it sounds like it's a pretty scary thing, because when I got into comics personally, I didn't have that. I got turned down from an internship with Marvel because I had already graduated from college. I don't know what I was doing during college. I was smoking a lot of weed and drinking a lot of alcohol. So, and partying a lot.
I didn't do any of that. No. Yeah. No drinking.
Yeah, but it was. I guess I didn't take advantage of those opportunities the way I should have. But I look back on it. I always look back on it, and I'm like, man, I wonder how much better I would be at what I was doing if I had that experience. How did this help you, and how are you using it to kind of like lay the groundwork? How are your experiences at Marvel? How did they help form everything that you're doing? Because I think it's also very different, like Marvel, like what I was trying to get at. I'm trying to formulate shit. I'm not really good at that. I even stopped smoking weed, and I still can't formulate shit. But anyway, what I was trying to say is, okay, Marvel handles distribution through the direct market, right? What we do, we work outside of the direct market. And yet you went into Marvel. You saw how they do things. You stepped out of that, and then you started doing your own thing. And then you found a way to become successful around that. How did you do this?
Well, I wish I could say that everything I learned from Marvel, like I got to carry that forward, because again, you get to see how a really big company operates. I think the most important thing I learned while being there is the true pressure that an editor is under there. And so when people are trying to break in to the industry, just why it's such a gamble to bring in new folks, like why it's such a scary thing for an editor, like to understand their point of view, like excuses, not excuses, whatever, but at least to understand where they're coming from is very helpful. So an editor has to produce, an editor has to get work done on time, editor has to like submit this stuff early so it can in fact be marketed, this kind of stuff. And so to bring in an unknown quantity when it comes to a new writer, new artist, this kind of thing, not know how they're going to produce, you're under these deadlines. And if they don't produce, this reflects on you too. And if they're not successful, this reflects on you too. So understanding what a project manager has to go through, what an editor is thinking about when they're putting all that stuff together, that was very, very helpful. Because, and I wish I had said, I wish I could say I learned that lesson and then went forward and didn't have to learn it again. But when I became an editor and it was time for me to put books together, and then people are coming to me asking me to take a chance on their stuff, I sometimes get frustrated because I want them to know that we rise and fall together. And if you don't deliver, I'm in trouble too. And if I don't deliver, then obviously, but some people don't see that, like the train that like
the train of thinking that goes into that.
Exactly. And this stuff comes with you. So I saw it and I saw the pressure, and then I understood just why it was so difficult to break in, because it's so fast paced, and then why they keep going back to the same artist and same writer each time, because they know what they're getting and they know what they can sell. And it's always expensive to start new. And so when people get frustrated by that, I kind of like, all right, guys, listen. But things have changed even from then, right? And so how we make comics, how a indie house is going to make comics, or how even just an individual creator is going to make comics, you cannot hope to catch up to the way Marvel is going to like be pumping this stuff out. And you can try to look as professional as they do, and you can put together a product that looks and is just as good. But to try to match that business model, putting out as many books or putting out that many like that kind of stuff, that is just so hard to do.
Yeah, I don't think it's possible with the way the market is structured. You know, that's why there's only two big publishing houses, and the thing is that they were all absorbed by bigger corporations. Part of a reason for that too is you got multiple teams. You know, this is a corporation. It's not just it's not a mom and pop shop. It certainly started out as that though. And even then it's like they only had like a couple editors, and just, they had so few people working on all these books, but things became streamlined over time.
Well, some of my early mistakes were trying to match the model that I saw, because clearly this is a successful model. So hopefully if I do the right things, it's going to work for me. So that's why I still have unopened boxes of my very first comic that have followed me for the last 10 years, because I printed so many in the beginning. There was just not even a hope.
How many did you print, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm not going to tell you. I will say though that that box, the number of boxes have dwindled, but I still have unopened boxes.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a story that might make you feel more comfortable about that. So when I first started, I was doing really good at conventions, and I was thinking to myself, all right, I got in with Diamond. I can do this. I'm going to print up a shit ton of books. I printed up 30,000 books, and Diamond sold 500. And then over the course of the next 5 years, I sold all those books and managed to take those books into multiple reprints. But, I think we all make that mistake at first. How the hell are we supposed to know when you're making that leap from going from small to big? How big of a leap do you know to go? I mean, it's a really hard decision to make, and especially when you're influenced by the things that you see, it's also kind of like you're taking a shot, and you're seeing where you can go with things. But have you been able to move those books over time, or are you more focused on new stuff?
I am more focused on new stuff, simply because it's not that those comics don't make it out every once in a while, and I give them away now as kind of like sometimes as a cautionary tale, because the problem is when you make your first comic, you're also going to make mistakes, and if you print too many of those mistakes, you're not going to want to give it out anymore.
Yes.
So I banked on being able to finish my very first series, my intention was to get 12 issues out. Unfortunately, when you're first starting, and especially if you're starting with new artists who are just starting the way you are, you don't know where their life is going to go. So the artist I was working with, she got this thing called a yob. I don't know, yob, something like that. And so she stopped. She stopped making comics and started on doing her day job thing. And she was successful at this day job. And so she stopped.
Yeah, she just walked out. She walked away from it.
you can't get mad at someone for living their life, but you also can't expect someone to walk that path with you. So I learned to make my projects a little bit more manageable. And this is very hard to do because if you have ambition and you have strength too, you can kind of, you really try to make something happen just by force of will. But sometimes you shouldn't be making those mistakes. So I had to learn a lot. I've learned a lot over the years, and the model has changed. So doing shows, did as much as people kind of like feel conflicted about Kickstarter, I truly believe that is the future. That the future is now, that this is our industry, you know, especially for indie. People are shopping online for these projects that they can kind of take a look at, buy into the production team, this kind of thing, sell the narrative. And some of the most successful people I see in indie right now are making crowdfunding work in whatever form. And that is just a new way that we are connecting with one another, and the communities that are built around our books that way. That's been a true revelation for me. So it's almost like a show, but it's this little community that you build around your series, and you stay with them, and they've invested in you, and so you try to take care of them. So this is how I pitch Crossing, my comic.
Yeah.
But I've seen the most successful people I'm seeing doing this now are doing crowdfunding, and they're building a community around themselves in that way. So,
you know, I it's funny because you know, one of our past guests, he's watching the show right now. Hey, Alton, I see you. You're not ignored, my brother. You know, he's running a Kickstarter right now, and I think he's killing it personally. On my last campaign, I did like somewhere around a little under $5,500. He's past that, and he's still got time to go. And I think that, and on top of that, he's also worked really closely with retailers and is taking his book. He's gotten it sold out at multiple shops throughout the country. And you know, the thing is that it's always challenging to get eyes on your Kickstarter when so many people are doing it. And what is different from Kickstarter that I feel is necessary at conventions is that when you're at conventions, you're engaging people, like what you were saying before. I think that's very important, is we need to engage each other. That's something that is just a necessity of who we are as creatures. We need to talk to each other. We need to engage each other. And that's how business has been done since the beginning of time, you know. But it's not just about the business of it. It's also the interaction of it. Like, look at Stan Lee. He was doing conventions until he couldn't anymore. And why was he doing it? Was he doing it for the money? Sure, he was doing it for the money. He was making a shit ton of it. But he was also doing it because he really enjoyed the process of meeting his fans, of getting out there and having that small impact on them. And I think that we all need that. You know, we all need that interaction of, man, my work is changing someone's life. I'm having a positive impact. I sold that kid my book, you know, and he's going to go home and he's going to read it and he's going to love it. My son, I picked up Stabbity Bunny from Richard Rivera a couple weeks ago, and I started reading it, and then my son was like looking at it, and he's like, "Hey, what is this?" And I was like, "Well, let me screen it a little bit and make sure it's okay." And you know, sure enough, it was all, you know, good, and I handed it off to him. He fucking tore through that book. I mean, he just read through everything. He's like, "I want more." He was even wearing the stickers that Richard threw in for us, and
cool.
You know, that experience I think is important, and I can't say that. You know, there's one thing that will replace the other. I think Kickstarter goes hand in hand with what we do at conventions. And I think that our retail presence is also important. You know, you can't.
Yeah. It's a many-headed monster, I think. I don't know anybody who just does one thing.
Yeah.
Like, there might be folks who are doing Kickstarter, they're just making bank and they don't have to do anything else. But I don't know anybody who's just doing one thing. And that's the other thing I've learned. Like, if you try to pay yourself for your time, there's no way. You're working all the time.
Yeah, you're not on the hour.
Things. Tracking all of it is key. I I remember early when I was first starting, I went to New York City, and I this is before I had the kind of phone that could like take you these directions and stuff, like, so I had printed out all the instructions of how to get to different comic shops, and I had mapped them, and I was going to go in them with specific orders so that my instructions would actually take me around the city. And I dropped all these books off, and I didn't realize that I hadn't really been marking down how many I'd left behind.
Oh yeah, oh, that
I was
happened
just
to
so
me
excited
too.
to be there and get my book into these shops. So you learn all that stuff like as time goes on, and you develop a system and all this other stuff. So, but you make more mistakes really than.
And but I think making mistakes is necessary because we don't learn otherwise. And I think another thing that's interesting is, and the one thing I really admire about you is that you're pursuing the other head. We're saying this is a multi-headed thing, right? We got Kickstarters, we got comic shops, we got conventions, but there's got to be
distribution. For indie, distribution's almost like it's very difficult to do, right?
Yeah, but there's got to be other heads, and I think those fourth and fifth heads or whatever, I think those kind of fall into the line of what it's going to really depend on your niche and where you are with it. Like, you know, for example, we could say that, you know, Yisun Shin might have more success in some, you know, South American countries for whatever reason, and, you know, maybe more success than, say, in Canada. And I found this special market in this area, and that it wouldn't work for other creators or for other publications. And I think that's what the other thing is. Like, the one thing I know I've been able to kind of count on consistently is that fourth distribution model, and it doesn't work for everybody's Amazon. And I fucking hate Amazon. Amazon can kiss my ass. Fuck Amazon.
Do you do Advantage or do you do the?
I do Advantage, and just be warned, if you do Amazon Advantage, be warned that they will take great advantage of you, because not only are they taking consignment for everything, but you're giving them 55%, and then on top of that, you're paying a fee to be a part of that program every year. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
They leave us with nothing, right?
There's some front-facing stuff though that's really important here, right? Like, a reader doesn't care how you got to their shop.
No,
right?
You know, they don't give a shit.
You weigh what needs to look in the front-facing and what sacrifice you're willing to make. So I got to tell you, I've like maybe been able to buy myself like a couple cappuccinos from my sales on Amazon. But I can tell people, hey, if you don't go to a comic shop, you don't go anywhere, you don't want to come to my website, you can find my stuff on Amazon. And they don't care how it got there. They don't know. So for people starting out, that is certainly like you make these sacrifices, and you do that just to kind of like the toolkit of your business. And then you'd have to track what's working and make sure that you're using it, like you're taking full advantage of those opportunities. Another thing I did for years, I was really, really good about building my email list before it was cool.
So was I. I was really good about it, and then I fucking dropped the ball. What happened with you? Go on.
You think that nobody cares. You think that
I know nobody gave a shit. That's how convinced I was. But
some of the people who are my return folks and who become really good friends, they are part of that email community. They're part of this. And then you get into crowdfunding, and then suddenly you see all those names I've been building all those years. That was worth it, and it was good. So sometimes you stumble into the best parts of your business too.
And this is a live example of how what applies for one doesn't apply for the other. Because here's what I was hoping. When I launched my last Kickstarter, I had my email list. I had like 6,000 people on my email list, just customers that every time someone was buying from me, I would say, hey, you want to join our email list? I had lists, you know, and from doing shows for the last 7 years, and every show I would come back with at least 100 to anywhere from 100 to 250 emails per show from actual people who bought the books, right? And as soon as I shoot out that email for Kickstarter that like, hey, I got this Kickstarter, I get people unsubscribing. And I was going to ask you this. Well, of course, that's going to happen. But one thing I notice about you, because I know I'm on your email list, how often, how do you manage this? Do you have to send out an email once a month, once a week? You know, I also don't like bombarding people, because when people are saying, a lot of my customers said, if I sign up for your email list, are you going to be sending me shit every week? And I said to them, I'm only going to send you stuff when I have something pertinent to say. And that's it. But what's your take on it? Like, how do you do this? How did you build this community so that, you know, when you did say like, hey, I got a Kickstarter, I think there's something that I did wrong that you did right. And I want to know what that is.
Well,
tell me, damn it.
Couple of things, Compin. I think the email business has changed now, too. So the way people are approaching like certain media that they took for granted for a really long time, these things have come back and become very, very important because, for instance, we're all on our phones now. And so you can go through just about, like, who goes to websites anymore? You know, because you're always finding stuff on social media and the sites that you spend the most time on, those links and those kinds of things. But one of my favorite cartoonists, The Oatmeal, he was super furious because he'd spent a lot of time building up his website, and then Facebook stopped sending people's websites. So he starts building up everything on Facebook, and all of his audience moves to Facebook, and then Facebook kind of like turns off the tap, and you have to start boosting stuff for anybody to see. So it's insidious how that works, right? So you have to have all the different platforms, and again, many, like, it's a many-headed monster, and sort of just keep that communication going. I try to send out a message every month, and I certainly send more when we're doing an actual campaign. And that way I find that the people who pay attention to what we're doing, they want to hear about when we're doing stuff. And then if we don't have a lot, then they just want to hear from us every once in a while. So I kind of keep that fluid. As soon as I started saying, I'm going to do it bi-weekly, or I'm going to do it such and such, I ended up screwing it up. So try to get something out every month. And then I do send more when we're doing something significant.
You know, that's interesting. That's interesting that you say that, because, you know, I'm just going to let the cat out of the bag for anybody who's listening. I'm going to my first convention, as long as it happens next month, Tampa Bay Comic Con. I just bought an Artist Alley table over there. And I know you're sighing and everything like that, and everybody's going to be sighing and critiquing me and everything. But I take what you said just now very seriously, because I have been thinking a lot about that email list. And the one thing I never did was I never did send that month update, that monthly update. And what I'm thinking about doing right now is, I think that as things start to kind of transition, and assuming that this happens, of course, but even if it's not this Tampa Bay show, even if it's the next show, whenever it's going to be, there's going to be a process of rebuilding, because the reset button has been hit either way. And I think that's one of the things I'm going to do, is really just build up that email list from the next show I do, and really focus on just that audience right there, whether it's 10 emails or 20 emails or whatever, and try and keep a thing going there. And how do you find stuff to write about? I mean, do you just kind of come up with stuff, or are you just constantly promoting? Because I know you're pulling a lot of different. You're working with a lot of creators. You're doing a lot of things. So I'm assuming you have a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of stuff to promote.
Yeah, there's always something to talk about. I find, again, it's one of those things where you're worried about annoying somebody, but the fact of the matter is they're not thinking about you.
Yeah, they're not.
Nobody cares about you until you're in front of them, and then they make this judgment. But nobody's like sitting there tracking, well, she sent me this email here, and then she sent me this email here. They don't want them. They don't want them.
Well, right. But there's going to be people that you're going to have that impact on. And when they do get that email from you, they are going to take it seriously. It's going to be a small percentage of people, but, you know, that's what you're focusing on, right? When real estate agents, when they send you their brochures, they're only expecting 1% of the people to actually see that.
Right. And the other thing I've tried to remember, that in my business, in this business, the only reason I have your email is because you gave it to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's one of those things where it'd be different if I was buying a list from anybody, or going out and harvesting a list that I didn't earn, and that you gave me your email. So I need to treat people like adults and just say, you gave me your email because you wanted to hear about it. And when you don't want to hear about it anymore, you're going to turn it off, and it's not this personal thing. And I have to give myself that pep talk all the times, because I get nervous and like, nobody wants to hear from me, blah, blah, blah. But I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I'd be wasting my own time if I'm not going to tell anybody about what I'm doing. And I try not to waste my own time. And I try to, again, if somebody gave me that information, I got it because they gave it to me. I didn't, take it or buy it, so people on my list, they want to hear from us. And then the ones who don't, they don't.
I agree with that. And another point to say that too is, I think we all have these days, particularly right now with what's going on in the months that we've been in quarantine, and now with what's going on with this, we feel invisible. Many of us feel invisible, and we struggle to wonder, what is our purpose in moving forward? Because there's so many issues that transcend us. There's so many bigger issues than us.
Yeah.
And when prior to all of this happening, we were the center of our own worlds. Like, we thought we were in command of everything until we realized we're not in command of shit. And it makes us feel kind of small. But at the same time, here we are still doing that with that knowledge, because we understand how important our jobs are, that it is important for us to do that. Because I think that the way we feel, our feelings are coming out through our work. When you pick out artists that you work with, what are the kinds of things you're looking for in terms of not thinking about the artist and saying like, he meets this criteria, but thinking about the finished product, thinking about what your audience is going to see?
I'll tell you what, it's different how you approach things. Like, when it comes to the anthologies that we do an open call every year. And that is, part of it is just, we've got a new book out. We want people to, because anytime somebody is like giving work to you, you're paying them all this other stuff. They're giving you time. They're giving you part of their life. And this is art. This is not, sprockets. So we do an open call to check in with the community every year and kind of start that. Now, unfortunately, we did an open call this year, and then for a new anthology, our annual anthology. And unfortunately, because of everything that's happened, we're a little bit worried about proceeding with it. So if anybody out there actually submitted to our open call this year, I'm going to be getting back with you guys soon, I promise. But that is to check in with the community, open it up to anybody. And artists, writers we tell them the theme, we tell them the subject, and then we ask you to create original works inspired by this theme, but you take your best shot and you send us your links. We want to verify who you are, like you're actually a real person, and then we invite you to pitch. And that's the process for how we get these new folks in. And part of it is just who can follow directions. we write this clearly. If you followed all the directions, you earn your spot to pitch to this thing and you get your shot. If you don't follow directions, then you're immediately you're out of this thing, and that's the way it goes. So that's how we kind of find people, do an open call.
That's how you funnel you funnel it that way. Yeah.
And those are the anthologies, and those are collections that have multiple people, and then we create, like, we'll pair people, like people can apply as teams, or we will pair a writer with an artist who's expressed interest in doing a story, and we kind of put this stuff together. And again, over the last 10 years, we've published over 350 people. So it's been a model that's been not only successful in the sense that we can put a new book out every year, and as an indie company, that can kind of be hard to do sometimes, but also
incredibly hard. Don't undersell it for anybody who's listening. That is fucking hard, and the fact that you're doing it is really, you're pulling some serious weight there.
Well, doing that, but then also you're giving in people, veteran writers, brand new people who've never been published before. Certainly students are interested in like doing these small projects that they can add to their portfolio. And then an artist is getting somebody else's work to draw, and they need to learn to do this. And so we got a lot of new people, but we have some people who've been in this industry a long time who just love this subject and they just want to do this story. So we put together this anthology, and that's how we, again, check in with the creator community each year, work with new people each year. And then from those anthologies, I have found some of my most enduring art partners when it comes to my own work. So Alex Cormick, his work has done a lot of books over the years, but my company was the first company to publish him. And so we were just kind of starting out together. And then he actually illustrated a number of the stories in our first anthology. And then over the years, we finally found a project that was going to fit for both of us. And then now we have Crossing, and that series we've been working on for the last 5 years. So
tell us a little bit more about Crossing. I'm interested to know about it because just tell us about it real quick.
Crossing is my pitch, my story.
Yeah, and show some of the artwork too. I'd love to see it.
I wish I could like sort of share some of the interior here. I would have prepared this a little bit better, but Crossing is the story of an annoying goth princess haunting the rookie train conductor who ran her over. So she says that her death was a murder made to look like a suicide, and she refuses to cross over until he helps solve her case. So put that together, and we've been working on that. Had a couple of successful Kickstarters. We'll be launching another one soon, and some bonus stories coming out. But and also color and letter guy Mark Mullaney, also another guy worked on these anthologies, and over the years you work together on this creative stuff, and then the team just comes together, and then you find a project that you can all work on together, and it works. So that's how it's kind of happened. I have not had a lot of success, unfortunately, going cold up to an artist whose work I liked and saying, "What do you think?" And then
because you're kind of put on the other end. They're supposed to be trying to impress you, instead you're trying to come up and impress them. I know that feeling.
It's the cold call, right?
Yeah,
like,
it is a cold. Yeah. Would you like to work? But wait, there's more. Yeah, I totally get that feeling. Yeah,
so I have found much more success working with people once on something small that the stakes are reasonable for both of us, and then you see how it works, and then you build on that, and that has been how I've successfully been able to do what I've done so far. But other projects we won't even talk about. Some of those things blow up because you try to work with somebody that isn't at the time of life where they can, or time of their life where they can actually produce or be as committed in the same way.
Yeah, and I mean there's always situations like that. And I mean, I know I lost one of my best friends. We started a business together. It was comic related. We weren't actually producing comics. We had a site where we put comics up online for free. And very early on, things just went down a really sour path. And, I lost a friend over it. And you try not to let that happen. But, not every thing is meant to be a sure thing. But when you find what is working for you, like it seems like these anthologies and Crossing, I actually want to pick that up. Sounds fun. My wife and I, we watched Dead to Me recently. Did you see that show? And we saw both seasons. That kind of reminds me.
Really great writing.
Yeah. And the acting too. Christina Applegate, she fucking kills it. Yeah. She is great. But aside from that, this kind of seems like my jam in that regard, because it's different. Like every comic is always about superheroes bashing and beating each other up. This feels different. So I will definitely pick that up from you the next time I see you at a convention. Because I know it's going to happen soon. So
I will give all of your audience a code for issue 1 if they're on my website. Yes. And you guys can read it for free, and if you like it, you like it.
But wait, I want to give you money.
I'll take your money. But then you did buy dinner.
Yeah, that's okay. But hey, you got what did you get? You got some breakfast on Sunday.
I did bring you guys lunch.
Yes, you bought us lunch. Kevin's like,
I like though that you're pretending that you're the one who bought the whole dinner. Were you the one who bought the whole dinner? Because I think Kevin helped. So,
I plead the fifth. No, it was great dinner. It was both of us. It was both of us. It's one of
that night. That's a fun night. Like those dinners, those interact. Like even
those are important.
Show. And then there's the people you hand. Less so BarCon, and I think BarCon's become less of a sticking point as time has gone on. But this is still like the people that you do meet become very, very important. And I have found that even some of the folks in the beginning, that I met who were really nice to me, those have been friends this entire time, and some of the best people. And then some of the hotshots I've met like over the years, they're just doesn't work.
Like that Ted Sikora guy. He's such a fucking prick.
Ted Sikora guy. No. But yeah, like you and I, we met, and you introduced me to some really, really wonderful folks, and like everything that like came into that show, those are the things that stick with you, and those people have been absolutely wonderful. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. And I think those
how it's all going to change, I don't know.
And I don't think anybody knows. I think we just kind of have to forcefully, hope that it will get better and forcefully work our way towards it. And it's tough. I mean, I'm not, what I said before the show started, I really meant it. Like, it's hard for me to be creative right now. Like I just got off prior to this. I got off I don't think I've been productive in a very long time, because it's hard. How do you sit down and start working on new scenes and thinking about your story with everything that's going on when you're glued to the fucking phone? And that's something that I've actually been thinking about, is like, I want to detox. One thing I've been actually forcing myself to do is actually read more comics. I'm reading
yes, that's important to do.
Yeah, have you read that?
Sounds like so simple, like read more comics and you're going to get back into it, but like that's got us here in the first place.
And then you just automatically pick up your phone, and then it's like, that's it. But I picked this up the other day, and I was reading it to my kid. I like Will Eisner stuff. It always just kind of takes me to a different time. And the one thing I want to do right now is escape fucking reality. I don't care what other time period or sci-fi universe or anything. It's just like, you need that escape. But I'm in the middle of Infidel. I don't know if you read that one.
No, I have not.
But it's so it's a horror story that plays on racism and everything that's going on. And it feels so real that I'm just like, okay, I don't know if I can pick that up. It's very well done though. But it's just like everywhere you look, I've
talked to a lot of people who are saying the same thing about
Yisun Shin.
All these emotions. Yes, I know. No, just all these emotions, and you have this time, if you're lucky, you have this time to be home, and it's hard to be productive. And I'm interested in how some people are overcoming it. And I was kind of caught in the maelstrom for a good month. We launched a Kickstarter the same week that the shutdown happened.
How'd the Kickstarter go?
It finally did go. It was good.
Oh, excellent. I'm sorry I didn't back it.
I should say it was funded. It was good, and we're thankful to all of the people who contributed. But
except for me, because I didn't. I'm sorry. I fucking suck. I suck. I'm sorry.
But what I mean is that, it's hard to feel like anything you're doing is important in the face of all of this stuff. But had I not been promoting even that week when everything was going to hell, I would have let my art partner down. I would have let the author and the artist of this book down. And he had been putting 5 years of work into the book. It culminates in a 1-month Kickstarter, and people get angry at the folks. Like, you see some other creators who get angry at other people who are putting this stuff out, but you don't know how much time and effort went into that one shot.
Yeah, no one ever thinks about that, do they?
And so to get angry at people for promoting, or to get angry at other people for trying to be productive, or get angry at yourself for wanting to be productive in the face of all this stuff. Nothing will ever get done unless we all do these little things. So I finally went back to the one thing that made comics the medium for me, which was the structure. I'm not a pantser. I'm a signpost person. Like, I need that outline, and I can put this thing together, and it's almost like a math problem. I know I have to tell this story in 8 pages, or I know I have to make this scene happen in 3 pages, and I have to limit myself to this, and then I can take this scene down because I'm giving myself left and right limits, and I can control what's happening here. And that finally broke the writer's block, going back to the structure of the thing, instead of how do I get all these emotions under control so that I can be precise about it. That was really hard to do. And you have to find a place of calm and then go back to a structure. At least that's what worked for me. And it helped in the middle of like a lot of craziness and a lot of upset.
I'm really hearing that. I'm in the midst of starting a new project that's not Eastern Shin, something that's my own, and it's been really hard for me. Yeah, yeah. And not that I'm abandoning Eastern Shin. It's just starting something that I can call my own.
No,
that I
it's
have
good to have a body of work. This is
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, go figure. Yeah, to be a little bit more, slightly more prolific, to have more than one comic book that comes out once every Shrove
Eastern
Tuesday.
Shin is a wonderful book. And the thing is,
I appreciate
too,
it.
I lived in, I was fortunate. I had an opportunity to live in Korea for just 1 year.
You never told me this.
Yeah, yeah.
You're like, I did, actually. You just didn't fucking remember, you asshole. Sorry. Go ahead. All right, so you lived in Korea.
I lived in Korea. I was teaching English, so I was like a foreigner just in this country. Did not know. My father's Taiwanese, but I didn't go to Taiwan. I went to Korea, and I'm just completely just dropped myself into that situation, and but learned a little of the history and got to visit these beautiful historic places. And then when a couple years later, and then I saw your book, that was half the reason I stopped. And then it was it was neat.
And a beautiful relationship budded out from it. And I like what Alton said. I love comic book people. So do I. I absolutely love comic book people. Now, as we're coming to the end of the show, go figure. See how fast that hour came by? Because you just have so many wonderful and interesting things to say. You really are fascinating. And I think everybody who tuned in today really needed to hear what you had to say. Especially what really resonated with me is how you broke yourself out of that block. Because if we can't go back to conventions, let's say this Tampa show gets canceled. And even if this Tampa show happens, I guarantee that a whole bunch of other big shows that are slated for this year are going to get canceled. We need to find a way to be productive. The show must go on, and because people need work. They need us to generate stuff. They need us to produce stuff.
They want you to, actually. It's not even that they need it. They want you to.
Absolutely.
Everybody wants more stuff, and so they want this.
Yeah.
They might not want my book, or may not want your book, or may not. They want something out there. They need the world to keep going. So
because and that's how you build new fans too, right? I mean, the person who whatever you do will always find an audience. There's always everybody who creates a book will sell at least one copy of that book. But if they keep pushing it, they'll sell more copies of that book. And the more passionate you are about it, the better the results you'll see. So so now, what's next for you? What's going on now?
Well, working with Alex and Mark to crank out the 5th issue of Crossing. It's a 6-issue miniseries, so we're getting close to the end. Now that things are calming down a little bit, I have a lot of people for the this year's the 2020 anthology to get back with and talk to and see who's still out there and who still wants to work. We just finished that Kickstarter for Ninja Bear. It's a book by Mark Mullaney. If you like ninjas and you like bears, Ninja Bear is a book for you. That's the pitch. That's the pitch.
I'm on board. I know my kid will be. All right.
It's a great book. So that's coming out. Working with a new fledgling company that is trying to help distribute indies. So shops, if they're interested, might soon be able to order Red Stylo titles from Corner Box.
That's fantastic.
And that's coming out.
You'll have to put me in touch with them and after we're done.
Yeah, but if you want more information, redstylo.com is the website, and then you can sign up.
Oh, wait. I want to give you the full screen. So take it ahead. I was going to say thank you for coming on the show. Here's your last shout out. Go ahead. Take it away. Tell us everything again.
No, come back. You left me. You left me here.
I'll be back. I'm still here. I'm looming over. I'm like that ghost from Crossing.
That's right.
Goth girl.
He never leaves.
Except I'm not a girl.
No, Crossing. It looks like my camera stalled here. No, Crossing, the story of an annoying goth princess haunting the rookie train conductor who ran her over. We're nearing the exciting end, and that Kickstarter is going to be launching in about a month. Just finished Kickstarter for Ninja Bear. You like ninjas? You like bears? You will love Ninja Bear, and that is by Mark Mullaney, and you can pre-order that on our website. A lot of other really great anthologies, collections. Again, 350 different artists and writers we have published over the last years. Some names you'll even remember because they moved on from our little tiny company and became big people in comics. And I'll let you guys paw through the site and find them, but super proud of them. Also, everything is terrible right now. Please be safe, wash your hands, and be strong, be tough, and we're all gonna check in on your friends and thank you for checking in with us and be nice to each other and do what you can. We do have a nonprofit giving arm of Red Stylo Media. It's called We Win Con. If you go into our store, that is a section of our store, and you can see all of the different organizations that we have tried to incentivize people to give over the years. You give to that organization, we give you money off a purchase at Red Stylo. So please take a look. Even though some of those situations happened years in the past, those organizations are evergreen. And then right now, the Know Your Rights Camp is accepting donations. That is the organization that Colin Kaepernick established to help young people know their rights, know how to get through and survive the situations and build leaders. We need that going forward. And that organization is giving money to people who, protesters who might need funds going forward. So give $50 to the Know Your Rights Camp, send us an email, and we will give you $20 off at Red Stylo.
Enrica, thank you so much. Do me a favor, hang out in the backstage. I'd love to talk with you for a couple more minutes. Let me just close up the show real quick, all right? Yeah, because you're awesome. And that was very beautifully said. Thank you so much. I agree with everything that you said.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Anytime. What a great episode. And an episode that I was very happy to have. Now that I've gone through this hour, I have to say I'm really glad that I kind of muscled through my my apprehensions of coming back on to do it. I think it's important for us to continue on with what we're doing and not turn a blind eye to what's going on. To constantly be vigilant and to pay attention to what's going on and you know, to take care of each other, just like what Enrica said. You know, let's be kind to each other. Let's work towards peace. And if we can do that, then I have a feeling that we'll come out on the other side of this a bit stronger. No one, of course, knows how this is going to resolve. We hope that it'll resolve in a positive way. And I think that the majority of us want that. And I think that if that's what we want, then why the hell shouldn't we have it? You know, when I first started out in comics, everybody told me I was going to fail. I was going to fall flat on my face and that this wasn't going to go anywhere. But because I was insistent on going through with it and pushing forward, I achieved results that I surpassed my own expectations. And I wish to continue this journey just as many of you creators out there do. And I hope that you can take away, if there's one thing you can take away from today's episode, it's that there are ways to break through the blocks, even when you're feeling as down as we all are right now. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. We got another great episode tomorrow. I hope you'll tune in. And until that time comes, onward to victory.